In this video, we're going to be reviewing the Kel Tec P17 in 22 long rifle and answering the one question I have in my mind, which is this the best 22 kit gun currently on the marketplace today? Now, just a little bit of history on Kel Tec. Kel Tec started manufacturing firearms in Florida back in 1995. And if you haven't seen any Kel Tec reviews on my website, it's largely because, you know, in the past, I haven't really been that enamored by Kel Tecs. To me, they've largely been unattractive. They've had mixed quality and reliabilities, at least the ones that I've fired, and just weren't that much of an interest to me. But that was until I first fired a P17 and started wondering if this really is the best 22 kit gun on the market today. So the P17 was first introduced back at the end of around 2019. And let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that I really like about this pistol. So the first thing is, and by the way, all the guns have been safety checked prior to the video. First thing is this has an excellent trigger. Absolutely phenomenal trigger, especially for a 22. It has great fiber optic front sight and is very lightweight and durable. I wouldn't worry about banging this up on a trip. And that's really, in my opinion, one of the most important things of a kit gun. Is this something you could just literally throw into a kit and not have to worry about? The other thing I really like about this pistol, especially after firing numerous rounds through this now, is it is extremely reliable for a 22 auto pistol, which most 22 auto pistols aren't. They just aren't that reliable. A lot of it has to do with the 22 ammunition, and it can be very finicky and etc. But in this case, I haven't really had that problem. This has been the most reliable 22 auto pistol I've ever fired. And that's going through at least 400 to 500 rounds. So that's actually very impressive. And then another thing I really like about this is it's very affordable. So and I normally don't like talking about pricing, but when you buy the Kel Tec, it comes in a hard case like this, and it comes with 3 16-round magazines as well as an adapter for a 0.5x28 suppressor that you can run on there. And you get all of this for around $200, give or take. You can find some cheaper, some more, but at $200, give or take, that's a really, really good value, especially compared to other options that are in the marketplace today. So what are some of the drawbacks of the gun? Well, the first thing is it's not as pretty as most other guns that you can see it. It looks like a Kel Tec, which is one of the things I haven't been that impressed with Kel Tecs in the past. Is just, you know, they don't look that cool compared to other guns, which is fine. When you also look at it too, there's, you know, like 11 screws exposed, etc. It just doesn't look like what you would see as a typical gun. Another thing that I would have liked to see Kel Tec do, and one of the recommendations I would have if you're going to buy one of these, is to buy get a mag loader for your magazines. And the reason why is a number of these 22s come out with a mag assist that makes it much easier to load 22 magazines. And the thing with 22s, as you know, is when you shoot them, you're going to be shooting probably a lot of rounds through them, and loading magazines, if you don't have those assists, is really kind of a pain. So one of the things that I bought on eBay was this mag loader, and it was probably 3D made or whatever, but this really makes it extremely easy to load in all 16 rounds of these magazines. So if you're going to pick one of these up, I suggest going on eBay and buy one of these mag loaders as well. It just makes a huge difference, etc. As I alluded to earlier, it comes with 3 16-round magazines. These are actually really good magazines. I was surprised. They really perform well. I haven't had any hiccups with them at all. As far as the action and operation, this is an internal hammer fired. It's not a striker fired system. So when you look at this, you might think it is striker fired because a lot of these semi-autos are today, but it's not. And there's a small witness hole you can see on the back. And when you see that red dot, it basically tells you that the hammer's cocked. And then when you fire it, it goes down. So that just gives you an indication you've got a little bit of a witness hole for that. It is a blowback action system. So the barrel and the recoil spring are fixed to the frame. So this also, in my opinion, helps with the reliability, especially if it's a blowback action system, which this one is. Again, as I alluded to earlier on my Lyman gauge, the trigger pull on here is phenomenal at 2 pounds. And one of the things that, if it's got a 2-pound trigger pull, which is great, I'm glad it also has ambidextrous safety, because if I'm going to have a trigger pull that light, I want to have a safety with it. And then the final thing is it has a paddle magazine release. So again, it's ambi on the magazine release side. If you're ever used these on H&Ks, again, those will look familiar to you. Now, as far as looking at some of the detail, as far as weight, so if we put the magazine back in the gun, it comes in about 12.8 ounces. So this is less than a pound. This is extremely lightweight. It also has an ambi safety, as I talked about before, and a full 1913 rail system. Again, these are great qualities to have on the handgun. As far as takedown and cleaning, it's very similar to a Glock. You have the takedown wings on the front. So in this case, what you do is you pull the slide back, pull the wings down, and then you lift it out and over, because again, the barrel is fixed to the frame. And then when you look at the internals, it's actually very unusual if you looked at a lot of these guns before, but the first thing you're going to notice is here's the hammer, as we were alluding to earlier, within the frame. It's important that you don't pull the hammer down, because you can do some damage on this while you have the slide off, so just be careful of that if it's ever cocked. But one of the great benefits of this is cleaning. Is one of the hardest parts about 22s are when you disassemble them is how easy are they to clean, because if they're not, 22s are just dirty rounds, and you need to have gun platforms that are just really easy to clean. And this one, I can easily take this off, clean this off with a toothbrush, etc., and then run a cleaning rod through here, and it's just a very effective, easy system. And then if I want to reassemble it, again, I put the wings down, slide it back, and then catch it under the slides, and then again, we're fully reassembled. So again, that's one of the great benefits of this gun. As I talked about earlier, it has a 1/2x28 barrel adapter for a suppressor. I ran my suppressor on here and had 100% reliability with that. Not only will this fire the 22 long rifles, but I was also running standard velocity, so I could run them through the suppressor. Again, 0 hiccups. So that's one of the cool things. Now, you need that little tool that I showed in the box to change this adapter out on the barrel, but again, it's not that big of a deal. Very easy to change out. And the best thing about this gun, especially after about 400 to 500 rounds, 100% reliable. Have 0 problems. Had numerous rounds fired through this, with one exception. That is the Aguila ammunition. So if you ever use these bulk box Aguilas, especially, that have really a lot of wax buildup on the cases, these are the ones that I tend to find are the ones that are most problematic, especially around auto loaders in 22s. And I saw that with this as well. And again, almost every other ammunition that I fire, and I usually fire Federal and bulk packs and things like that, 0 problems in here. But the Aguilas, I did have a little bit of problem, but again, it had to do with the wax buildup on the 22. So if you're buying 22 bulk ammunition, just be careful when you buy these, especially in these bulk packs with the Aguilas. At least with the Aguilas, I found that the wax buildup on the casings tend to be a little bit problematic, not only in this handgun, but every other type of gun that I've used before. The other thing about accuracy when you look at the gun is I was surprised at how accurate this is. For a lightweight gun, the trigger, the sights, again, it has a front fiber optic sight and then a rear sight. Now, the rear sight is adjustable for windage and elevation. There have been some people that claim that this little Allen wrench screw right on the rear sight here can work its way out. No big deal. So there's certain things you can do on here. One of the things I always recommend, if you have parts like that you think might be problematic, just take some blue thread lock and then take the screw out, put the thread lock back in, and put it back in. And that's what I did here. And again, it hasn't walked out on me at all. But again, you have a nice windage elevation adjustment on here. And again, great sights. Very impressed by that. There's other alternatives on the market today. There's a lot of them out there. You can buy, for example, revolvers, which we've reviewed before. Again, one of the great things about the Smith & Wessons are, you can put up to 8 rounds now into these guns. Some of the drawbacks, of course, are they're really expensive. And like with the aluminum one, like this one here, after you fire them for a while, the cases tend to be a little bit sticky into the chamber. And again, it's kind of tedious to clean them, etc. And then, of course, you've got a lot of clones that are out there, like with Smith & Wesson, Glock, SIG. They all kind of are making their own little 22 versions. Most of them, in my opinion, aren't really as reliable as I've seen with the Kel Tec, and they're kind of more of a novelty piece, if you will. Sometimes they're training, used for training, etc. But again, they're much more expensive as well. So those are some of the options you have out there as well. But again, part of that is just the simplicity, which I really like here. So as far as utility, what would you use this for? This is great for plinking and a general use kit gun. This is something I can easily just throw into a bag, throw into a box. If I'm going out camping, camping or things like that. Very lightweight. I can easily put it in the bag. This is something I wouldn't worry about getting beat up. And that, again, is the premise for a great kit gun, which I think is perfect for this. If you're using ammunition, almost all the bulk are working great except for the Aguila. So just if you're, mostly the Federal match and things like that are usually what I run through here, had zero problems. So overall value, is this the best kit gun out in the market today? It might actually be, especially if you're an outdoorsman. I have a lot of concern about whether or not I take really expensive 22s with me when I'm out camping or outdoors, etc. I don't have that problem with the Kel Tec, which again is one of the biggest qualifications for me. It has great capacity. Again, these are 16 round magazines, and it comes with 3 of them in the box, so you don't need to really buy any additional magazines. So you basically are carrying almost double the capacity of a revolver. And in many of the cases, these 22 clones are limited to about 10 rounds. So again, you get 3 magazines, 16 rounds right out of the box. It works great with a suppressor. If you have a 22 suppressor, I found this to be 100% at least reliable for me. And then, as I mentioned before, it comes in a relatively good hard case. So again, nothing chintzy there as well. This is arguably one of the most fun 22 pistols I've ever fired. And as I mentioned before, I've fired a lot of rounds through it. I actually went through pretty extensively before the last cleaning just to see how dirty it could get. And again, it really didn't impact the gun as well. So again, that's one of the benefits I have there as well. And at this price, at around the $200 mark with everything you get, the Kel Tec P17 might actually be, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best 22 pistols on the market today. So if you like this video or you like the channel, please subscribe on YouTube, and thanks for watching.